All right, so everyone knows that feeling, right? When you're like, okay, my laptop is officially ancient. It's time for a new one. But then you start looking at what's out there, and man, it is a jungle of models and specs, and it's just overwhelming.
It really is.
Yeah, and today we're going to try to make at least one corner of that jungle a little easier to navigate. We're doing a deep dive on a laptop that comes up on a lot of people's shortlist, the Acer Aspire 5.
Yeah, the Aspire 5. It's super popular, but the thing is, there are a ton of different versions of this thing. So even once you've narrowed it down to like, okay, I think I want an Aspire 5, then it's like, which one?
Right. Exactly. And that's what we're here to sort out today. We've got a bunch of reviews and articles, and basically we're going to be your guide to figure out what all those specs really mean so you can pick the Aspire 5 that actually fits you.
Yeah, because it's not just about having a list of features. It's about knowing what those features translate to in terms of how you're actually going to use the laptop.
Exactly. So let's start with the big picture. Why is the Aspire 5 so popular in the first place? What's the main appeal?
Well, pretty much every review mentions value for money. You get a lot for what you pay for, a good mix of features and performance without spending a fortune.
Okay, so it's seen as a good deal, but who are they making this laptop for? Who is the target audience for the Aspire 5?
It seems like Acer's really going for a pretty broad audience with this one. The reviews all point to everyday users. People who need a laptop for browsing, emails, working on documents, streaming stuff, that kind of thing.
Right, the basics.
Exactly. And of course, it's always a popular choice for students. It's portable. It can handle schoolwork. And then you've got professionals who need a reliable laptop for basic office tasks. Really, it's like the modern-day workhorse laptop.
So it's designed to handle those essential tasks smoothly. But what if you want to do a little more? Could you do some light photo editing, maybe play some casual games on an Aspire 5?
It depends. It really depends on the specific configuration. Acer makes Aspire 5s with some pretty powerful processors, and some even have dedicated graphics cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those models could definitely handle some lighter creative tasks or less demanding games. But you got to keep in mind that the more budget-friendly configurations, the ones that really focus on those core everyday uses, those probably not going to be your gaming powerhouses.
Right. Manage your expectations based on what's under the hood, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to, like, the biggest thing about the Aspire 5. There are a ton of different configurations. Like, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
It's not just one Aspire 5, it's like a whole Aspire 5 family.
Yeah, like a whole family. Acer offers it with a whole range of processors. You've got Intel Core i3, i5, i7. Then you got the AMD Ryzen series. And then on top of that, you've got different amounts of RAM and different storage options. They've got traditional hard drives and faster SSDs, and sometimes they even combine the two.
So it's like you're building a custom laptop, which is cool, but also that's where it gets kind of confusing for a lot of people. So let's break it down. Let's start with the processor. That's basically the brain of the laptop, right?
It is. Yeah, the processor determines how well your laptop can handle everything you throw at it.
So how do you know what kind of processor you need in your Aspire 5?
So if you're planning on doing things that need a lot of processing power, like you mentioned, maybe video editing, or if you work with really big image files, or if you want to play more graphically intense games, then you want to go for a model with a more powerful processor, something like an Intel Core i7 or an AMD Ryzen 7.
Those are the heavy hitters.
Yeah. Think of it like this. They can handle a lot more information at the same time, so everything runs longer.
Got it. But what about for those more everyday tasks? Like if you're mainly just browsing, doing email, writing documents, do you need a super powerful processor for that?
Not really, no. For those everyday things, an Intel Core i5 or an AMD Ryzen 5 will do the job just fine. They're kind of like the middle ground, a good balance of power and efficiency, so you get good performance without draining your battery too fast.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about RAM and storage. Those two always kind of go together, but they're not the same thing at all, right?
Nope, not the same at all. RAM is your laptop's short-term memory. It's where it keeps the information for the apps you're actively using. The more RAM you have, the more you can have open at the same time without your laptop slowing down. These days, 8 GB is kind of like the minimum you want.
8 gigs of RAM. Got it. So when would someone need to go higher than that?
Well, if you're the type of person who's always got like a million tabs open in your browser, or if you're working on multiple things at once, like writing in a document and having a spreadsheet open and maybe a presentation too, then you'll want to think about getting an Aspire 5 with 16 gigabytes of RAM.
16 gigs? That's for the hardcore multitaskers.
Yeah, it basically just gives your laptop more breathing room, so you can do all those things without it getting bogged down.
I like breathing room. especially when it comes to computers.
Definitely. Okay, so then you've got storage, and that's where your actual files live. Your documents, your pictures, your music, all that stuff.
Right. So what are the storage options in the Aspire 5?
The main thing to know here is that there are two basic types. You've got your traditional hard disk drives, or HDDs, and then you have solid-state drives, which are called SSDs. SSDs are way faster, like way, way faster, the technology. HDs use spinning disks to store data, but SSDs use flash memory. It's like the difference between having a filing cabinet where you have to go through folders to find what you need versus just having everything instantly accessible.
Okay, that makes sense. So even if you're on a budget, SSD is something to really try to prioritize.
It really is, yeah. Like if you have to make a compromise somewhere, I'd say get an SSD. It's going to make a huge difference in how your laptop feels in everyday use. You'll boot up faster, apps will load faster, everything will just feel snappier. Some Aspire 5 models will give you like a smaller SSD for your operating system and your main apps, and then a bigger, slower HDD to store your files.
Oh, so it's like the best of both worlds.
Kinda, yeah. But if you can swing it, a standalone SSD is the way to go for speed. And the good thing is, it's usually something you can upgrade yourself later on if you need to.
Good tip. Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about the thing you actually spend all your time looking at, the display.
Right, the screen.
What do you need to know about the Acer Aspire 5's display?
So, first of all, display quality can be different across the different Aspire 5 models. One term you'll want to look for is IPS display. IPS panels have wider viewing angles, so the screen looks good, even if you're not looking at it straight on. And they have more accurate colors.
So colors look more realistic, basically.
Exactly. Now, resolution's also important. You want to make sure you get a model with full HD resolution, which is 1920 by 1080 pixels. That's pretty standard these days, but some cheaper models might have a lower resolution, and it's going to look kind of blurry.
So full HD is the target. And what about the actual physical size of the screen?
Most Aspire 5s come with a 15.6-inch screen. It's a pretty good size for most people. A lot of the newer models have really thin bezels around the screen, too.
Oh, yeah, I've noticed that. The bezels are almost disappearing these days.
It's a good thing. It means they can fit a bigger screen into a smaller laptop body.
More screen, less bulk. Got it. Now let's talk about what makes those visuals happen. Graphics.
Graphics. So we hear a lot about integrated graphics versus dedicated graphics.
Right, and I've never really understood the difference. Like, what does it actually mean for the user?
So integrated graphics are built into the processor itself. And for most things, browsing, streaming videos, basic productivity stuff, integrated graphics are totally fine. They get the job done.
So for most people, integrated graphics are enough.
For most people, yeah. Now, dedicated graphics, on the other hand, it's a whole separate graphics card. It's a more powerful chip, specifically for handling graphics. So if you're a gamer, or if you do stuff like video editing or other graphics-intensive work, that's when you need dedicated graphics.
So integrated graphics are like the everyday driver, and dedicated graphics are like, I don't know, a sports car.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, next up, ports.
Ports. Gotta be able to plug stuff in.
Absolutely. So on the Aspire 5, you'll want to look for a USB Type-C port. That's the newer one for faster data transfer and sometimes even charging. You also need regular USB 3.2 ports, maybe a couple of the older USB 2.0 ports for, just in case you have older devices. Then HDMI is a must if you want to connect to an external monitor or a TV. Some people still like having an Ethernet port for a wired internet connection.
Yeah, Ethernet's good for reliability.
And of course, you need a headphone jack.
Essential.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's Wi-Fi. It's a wireless world now. What should people look for in terms of Wi-Fi standards?
You want Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E. Those are the newest standards, so they're going to give you the fastest speeds and the most stable connections. Especially important if you're doing a lot of streaming or online gaming, or if you just have a lot of devices on your home network.
Right. So you don't have that dreaded buffering.
Exactly. Speaking of which, battery life.
Ah, yes, the eternal struggle. How long can you actually use this thing before you have to plug it back in?
Well, it varies depending on the model, of course, and also on how you're using it. But most Aspire 5s can get you a solid 8 to 10 hours of battery life with normal use.
8 to 10 hours? That's not bad.
Not bad at all. And a lot of them has fast charging now, too.
Oh, nice. Always a bonus. Okay, let's talk about build quality. You're carrying this laptop around, opening and closing it. How does the Aspire 5 hold up?
Overall, the build quality is considered pretty decent for the price. Some reviewers say certain models can feel a little plasticky, which, is sometimes the trade-off for keeping the price down. But then other reviews specifically call out the aluminum top cover, which makes it feel a bit more premium and sturdy.
So it's not going to feel like a super high-end luxury laptop, but it should be tough enough for everyday use.
Yeah, for sure.
What about the keyboard and the trackpad? What are those like on the Aspire 5?
The keyboard gets consistently good reviews. People say it's comfortable to type on. And a lot of the models have backlit keyboards, which is great for working in dim lighting.
I love a backlit keyboard.
Yeah, they're super helpful. And then the trackpad, generally it's considered responsive and it supports multi-touch gestures.
Which is good for productivity. Okay, last thing, software. What comes pre-installed on the Aspire 5?
Pretty much all of them come with Windows. I think it's Windows 11 these days. And then Acer usually throws in some of their own software utilities too, like stuff for system optimization, security, that kind of thing.
Right, and the value of those extra programs kind of depends on the person.
Yeah, some people find them useful, some people don't even touch them.
Okay, well, I think we've covered pretty much every angle of the Acer Aspire 5 here. Any final thoughts for our listeners who are thinking about buying one?
I think the big takeaway is the Acer Aspire 5 is a really solid, versatile laptop, but it comes in so many different configurations. The key is to think about what you're actually going to use it for, and then look at the specific specs of the model you're thinking about getting.
So don't just see the name Aspire 5 and assume it's all the same.
Right. Dig a little deeper. Look at the processor, the RAM, the storage. See if it matches your needs. Whether you need a workhorse for everyday tasks or a more powerful machine, there's probably an Aspire 5 that fits the bill.
Great advice. This has been a really helpful deep dive. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Happy to help.
And for all of you listening, here's something to think about as you continue your laptop search. Of all the things we talked about, what one feature do you think would make the biggest difference in how you personally use a laptop? The processor, the RAM, the storage, something else. Think about why that feature is so important to you.
Good food for thought.
It is. And on that note, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for listening, everybody.
See you next time.